Pain is an undeniable part of the human experience. Everyone, no matter how strong or successful, will face moments of suffering, loss, or disappointment. It can appear in many forms, emotional, physical, or psychological, and often comes when we least expect it. Many of us instinctively try to escape it, distracting ourselves with work, social media, or other temporary comforts. Yet avoiding the discomfort does not make it disappear, it only delays the healing process. Choosing to numb pain may feel like a safe option, offering brief relief from overwhelming emotions. People often turn to substances, distractions, or overworking themselves to escape the rawness of their feelings. In the short term, this avoidance can seem effective, creating an illusion of control over chaos. But over time, suppressed emotions build like a pressure cooker, eventually forcing an eruption in unexpected ways. The longer we resist, the more difficult it becomes to face the reality of our experiences. Understanding that pain is inevitable allows us to approach life with more realism and compassion. It is not a sign of weakness or personal failure to feel hurt or disappointed. Everyone has their own struggles, and recognizing this truth can reduce feelings of shame and isolation. When we accept that suffering is a natural part of life, we start to see pain as an opportunity for learning rather than just a burden. Awareness of this reality becomes the foundation for emotional resilience. Pain is also a signal, alerting us that something in our life requires attention. Emotional discomfort often indicates unmet needs, unresolved conflicts, or areas where boundaries are being crossed. Physical pain similarly warns us to protect and care for our bodies. By paying attention to these signals, we gain insight into ourselves and our environment. Numbing these warnings prevents us from addressing the root causes and may even exacerbate the problems over time. Choosing to confront pain requires courage, but it is a conscious decision we can make. We can allow ourselves to feel sadness, grief, anger, or fear without judgment. Each emotion carries valuable information about our experiences and priorities. When we acknowledge these feelings, we validate our own humanity and take the first step toward healing. Avoidance might seem easier, but true growth begins with willingness to face discomfort honestly. Resisting pain often creates a cycle of denial and suppression that can affect our relationships. When we numb our own feelings, it becomes harder to empathize with others. Emotional disconnection may emerge, leaving us isolated and misunderstood. By embracing our own pain, we become better equipped to support and connect with those around us. Healing ourselves enables us to participate more fully in the lives of others without fear or avoidance. Every moment we resist pain, we inadvertently give it more control over our lives. It dictates our choices, triggers subconscious reactions, and shapes our behaviors in ways we may not even realize. Awareness and acceptance break this cycle, returning the power to ourselves. Feeling our pain does not make us weak. It restores agency and understanding. The option to numb is always present, but choosing to feel is where empowerment lies. Experiencing pain also deepens our emotional intelligence and self-awareness. When we allow ourselves to sit with discomfort, we learn about our triggers, coping mechanisms, and values. These insights equip us to handle future challenges with greater clarity and composure. Emotional growth comes not from avoidance, but from engagement with what is difficult. Pain, in this sense, becomes a teacher rather than an obstacle to our well-being. Avoidance may temporarily protect us from vulnerability, but it cannot shield us from life's lessons. By numbing our pain, we delay understanding and postpone meaningful change. Life demands presence, and the ability to feel is integral to living authentically. Pain signals that we are human, alive, and capable of depth in both emotion and experience. Choosing to feel it opens the path to resilience, courage, and transformation. The first step in embracing pain is simply acknowledging its presence without resistance. Naming the emotions we feel, whether sadness, grief, or frustration, reduces their intensity and brings clarity. Allowing ourselves to be present with the discomfort is a practice of self-compassion. Each small moment of facing pain builds the muscles of courage and emotional endurance. Over time, this choice transforms suffering into understanding, growth, and strength. Avoiding pain may seem like a protective measure, but it prevents the very growth we seek. Every challenge, disappointment, or heartbreak carries lessons that are essential for personal evolution. By numbing these experiences, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to learn and transform. Pain has a way of highlighting areas in our life that need attention or change. Suppressing it may feel safe temporarily, but it ultimately slows down progress and self-awareness. When we resist discomfort, we create an emotional barrier between ourselves and reality. This barrier might shield us from immediate suffering, yet it also blocks understanding and insight. Growth requires confronting difficult truths about ourselves and the world around us. Avoidance fosters stagnation, leaving patterns of fear, regret, and frustration unresolved. Transformation only becomes possible when we are willing to feel fully, even when it is uncomfortable. Pain often acts as a mirror, reflecting the parts of ourselves that need examination. Ignoring or numbing the reflection prevents us from seeing our strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots clearly. Life's difficulties serve as catalysts, prompting us to adapt and evolve. When we engage with these experiences rather than escape them, we develop wisdom and resilience. Numbing, on the other hand, keeps us in a loop of avoidance, making it harder to grow emotionally and mentally. Transformation is a process that begins with awareness, and awareness comes from feeling. Suppressing pain may reduce its intensity temporarily, but it also suppresses self-reflection. Growth requires embracing the discomfort as part of our journey. Each emotional struggle is an opportunity to examine our beliefs, behaviors, and responses. The lessons hidden within pain cannot be accessed while we are actively avoiding them. Fear often drives the urge to numb emotions as we associate pain with danger or weakness. However, pain is not the enemy. It is a guide pointing us toward change. When we embrace difficult emotions, we cultivate courage, empathy, and insight. Each time we resist the temptation to escape discomfort, we reinforce the muscles of resilience. Numbing, in contrast, conditions us to remain passive in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Emotional growth is intertwined with vulnerability, and vulnerability requires feeling our pain fully. Hiding from discomfort creates superficial coping mechanisms that never allow true understanding. Transformation demands that we face the truth of our experiences, acknowledge them, and learn from them. Avoidance may offer fleeting relief, but it comes at the cost of delayed development. Genuine progress is only possible when we confront and process the emotions we would rather ignore. Numbing also affects our relationships, as suppressed pain can manifest in unhealthy ways. Emotional avoidance often leads to misunderstandings, detachment, or even resentment toward ourselves and others. When we do not process our experiences, we inadvertently carry unhealed wounds into our interactions. Growth and transformation are supported by honest self-awareness, which allows for healthier communication and deeper connections. Avoiding pain stunts not only personal growth, but also the richness of our relationships. Pain fosters adaptation, and adaptation is at the core of transformation. By feeling the emotions we tend to numb, we gain insight into our patterns, triggers, and needs. Each challenge presents a choice to escape or to engage, to numb or to feel. Growth arises from engagement, as it allows us to internalize lessons and apply them consciously. Numbing may dull discomfort temporarily, but it deprives us of the transformative power inherent in our experiences. When we confront discomfort, we discover hidden strengths and resilience within ourselves. Pain exposes vulnerabilities, yet it also illuminates our capacity to endure, recover, and thrive. Every avoided feeling is a missed opportunity for self-discovery and inner growth. Choosing to feel, even when it is painful, allows us to cultivate wisdom, patience, and courage. Transformation depends not on the absence of suffering, but on our willingness to face it consciously. Ultimately, Numbing delays the evolution of our emotional, mental, and spiritual selves. It keeps us trapped in cycles of avoidance, preventing the emergence of a more aware, compassionate, and resilient self. Growth requires the courage to feel fully and learn deeply from every experience. The lessons embedded in discomfort guide us toward meaningful change and authentic living. Transformation is a choice, and it begins with our willingness to encounter what we might prefer to escape. Experiencing pain fully is one of the most important ways to develop emotional resilience. Life is unpredictable, and challenges often arrive without warning, testing our strength and stability. Each moment of suffering offers an opportunity to learn how to endure, adapt, and respond rather than react impulsively. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about embracing it and finding ways to grow stronger through it. By feeling our emotions deeply, we build the capacity to withstand future difficulties with greater clarity and composure. Pain allows us to understand the depth and complexity of our own emotions. When we numb discomfort, we deny ourselves the chance to recognize what truly affects us, both positively and negatively. Confronting pain provides insight into our triggers, fears, and limitations, revealing areas in need of attention. This awareness strengthens our ability to manage emotions consciously rather than being controlled by them. Each time we face suffering, we train our minds to respond with wisdom and patience. Emotional resilience grows through repeated exposure to challenges and discomfort. Life's hardships act like weights in a strength training session, gradually increasing our capacity to endure. Avoiding difficult feelings may provide temporary relief, but it leaves us vulnerable to being overwhelmed when challenges inevitably return. By engaging with our pain, we learn to tolerate uncertainty, loss, and disappointment without losing stability. Resilience is built not in comfort, but in the willingness to stay present during difficult times. Feeling pain also teaches us empathy and compassion toward others. When we have experienced deep discomfort, we are more equipped to understand and support those facing similar struggles. Numbing our own pain diminishes our ability to connect authentically with others, creating distance and isolation. Emotional resilience is not only about self-strength, but also about building meaningful relationships through shared human experience. By fully experiencing our emotions, we develop a capacity to care deeply and respond genuinely. Pain challenges us to develop coping mechanisms that are healthy and sustainable. Facing emotions head-on encourages problem-solving, reflection, and adaptive behaviors rather than escape and avoidance. Each encounter with discomfort teaches us strategies for navigating future adversity more effectively. Numbing pain often leads to temporary fixes that fail in the long term, leaving us unprepared for life's inevitable trials. Resilience arises from learning to process emotions, adapt, and emerge stronger from each challenge. When we confront pain, we also strengthen our mental fortitude. The ability to remain present in discomfort builds confidence in our capacity to endure hardships. It teaches us that suffering, though difficult, is not insurmountable. Repeatedly facing difficult emotions reduces fear of vulnerability and uncertainty. Over time, we cultivate a mindset that allows us to engage with life fully, even when it brings discomfort or challenge. Resilience is closely linked to self-awareness, and feeling pain deepens our understanding of ourselves. Recognizing the full spectrum of emotions provides insight into our values, priorities, and boundaries. When we acknowledge discomfort instead of suppressing it, we become more attuned to our internal needs. This awareness guides us in making decisions that support long-term well-being rather than short-term avoidance. Emotional resilience is strengthened each time we allow ourselves to experience pain consciously and intentionally. Experiencing pain also fosters patience and acceptance. When we sit with difficult emotions, we learn that healing and adaptation are gradual processes. Avoiding pain creates a sense of urgency and frustration, making challenges feel larger than they are. By embracing discomfort, we learn to pace ourselves, tolerate uncertainty, and trust in our ability to recover. Patience developed through facing pain becomes a cornerstone of emotional resilience, supporting us in both minor setbacks and major life crises. Pain is not meant to break us, it is meant to build us. Each time we feel our emotions fully, we expand our capacity to endure, empathize, and thrive. Avoidance may provide temporary comfort, but it leaves our emotional muscles weak and untested. By leaning into discomfort, we allow our experiences to strengthen us internally, creating resilience that carries through all aspects of life. Feeling pain is a necessary and transformative part of building emotional strength that cannot be achieved through numbness. Resilience develops over time through conscious engagement with life's challenges. Each painful experience, when acknowledged and processed, contributes to our growth and adaptability. Avoiding discomfort may seem easier, but it undermines our ability to respond effectively when trials arise. Emotional resilience emerges from repeated encounters with pain, reflection on lessons learned, and the application of those lessons in everyday life. By choosing to feel rather than numb, we prepare ourselves to face the future with courage, wisdom, and unwavering strength. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but it is actually a profound source of strength and healing. When we allow ourselves to be open and honest about our emotions, we invite authenticity into our lives. Pain becomes more bearable when shared rather than hidden, and connection becomes possible through genuine expression. Avoiding vulnerability may feel safe, but it isolates us from the support and understanding we need. Embracing vulnerability is the first step toward emotional restoration and personal growth. Healing requires courage, and courage begins with vulnerability. Facing our fears, insecurities, and past wounds openly demands that we step into uncertainty. We cannot heal what we refuse to acknowledge, and vulnerability allows us to confront difficult truths about ourselves and our lives. By showing up fully, even when it is uncomfortable, we signal to ourselves and others that our experiences are valid. Each act of vulnerability strengthens our capacity to face pain and move toward recovery. When we are vulnerable, we create opportunities for connection and empathy. Others are more likely to respond with compassion when they see honesty and openness. And shared experiences of struggle can foster deep understanding. Pain and suffering become less isolating when we let others in, and healing is accelerated through relational support. Emotional wounds begin to mend when we trust enough to reveal them. Breaking the cycle of secrecy and shame, vulnerability bridges the gap between suffering and relief by fostering genuine human connection. Suppressing vulnerability often leads to long-term emotional stagnation. We may develop walls that protect us from immediate hurt but prevent growth and authentic relationships. Avoidance of openness fosters loneliness and perpetuates the fear that sharing will result in judgment or rejection. Healing cannot occur in isolation, and the refusal to be vulnerable reinforces cycles of shame and disconnection. By confronting these fears and allowing ourselves to be seen, we open the door to meaningful transformation. Vulnerability also cultivates self-compassion, which is essential for healing. Admitting our struggles and acknowledging our limitations allows us to treat ourselves with kindness instead of criticism. Pain often brings self-judgment, but embracing vulnerability softens this harsh inner voice. When we accept our imperfections, we reduce shame and create space for recovery. Self-compassion is strengthened through the practice of vulnerability, allowing us to face our emotions with understanding rather than fear. Embracing vulnerability encourages emotional honesty, which is vital for long-term healing. When we avoid admitting our pain, we risk internalizing it and letting it fester beneath the surface. Open acknowledgement of difficult emotions prevents them from controlling our behavior unconsciously. By expressing what we feel and confronting our emotional truths, we create a path toward resolution. Healing is nurtured through consistent honesty with ourselves and others, and vulnerability is the gateway to that honesty. Vulnerability enhances resilience by teaching us to tolerate uncertainty and discomfort. Opening ourselves to the possibility of rejection or criticism requires bravery, and each act of openness strengthens our capacity to endure challenges. Emotional resilience is built through repeated exposure to situations that demand courage and authenticity. Avoiding vulnerability may provide temporary safety, but it prevents the development of inner strength. By choosing to embrace vulnerability, we become more capable of navigating life's inevitable hardships with grace and fortitude. When we are vulnerable, we invite reflection and insight into our emotional patterns. Facing pain openly allows us to identify triggers, coping mechanisms, and areas for personal growth. This self-awareness is essential for healing because it equips us with the tools to respond rather than react to emotional pain. Avoidance obscures these lessons, leaving us vulnerable to repeating harmful patterns. Vulnerability creates a space where emotional learning and transformation can occur. Vulnerability also dismantles the barriers of shame that often accompany pain. When we share our struggles, we challenge the belief that suffering is a sign of failure or inadequacy. This act of openness normalizes human experience and reduces the internalized stigma surrounding emotional difficulty. Healing thrives in environments free from shame, and vulnerability cultivates such environments both within ourselves and in our interactions. By allowing ourselves to be seen, we disrupt the cycles of secrecy and isolation that hinder recovery. Ultimately, vulnerability connects us to the essence of what it means to be human. Pain is a universal experience, and sharing it authentically allows us to feel less alone. Each act of vulnerability contributes to emotional healing by creating connection, insight, and self-compassion. Avoiding openness may provide temporary safety, but embracing it nurtures strength, resilience, and growth. Vulnerability transforms suffering into an opportunity for deeper understanding, meaning, and personal evolution. Awareness is the foundation of emotional healing, allowing us to recognize pain without being overwhelmed by it. When we are conscious of our feelings, we can observe them objectively instead of reacting impulsively. Mindfulness provides a lens through which we see the patterns, triggers, and sources of our suffering. By paying attention to the present moment, we create a space to process emotions fully and intentionally. Awareness transforms chaotic feelings into insights that guide our path toward healing. Mindfulness practices, such as meditation, journaling, or deep reflection, offer tools to engage with pain consciously. Instead of suppressing discomfort, we learn to sit with it and examine its nature. This engagement allows us to understand why certain situations evoke strong reactions and how to respond more skillfully. Over time, mindfulness builds emotional regulation, helping us navigate future challenges without being swept away by intensity. Processing pain becomes a deliberate act rather than a reaction driven by avoidance. Being aware of our emotions also helps us separate identity from experience. Pain does not define who we are. It is a temporary state that carries lessons for growth. Mindfulness allows us to witness suffering without internalizing it as a reflection of our worth. This perspective reduces shame and self-criticism, which often amplify emotional distress. Awareness empowers us to approach pain with curiosity instead of judgment, fostering a healthier relationship with our inner world. Awareness helps identify unhelpful coping mechanisms that may numb pain but prolong suffering. Many people resort to distractions, addictions, or denial to avoid difficult emotions, which ultimately delays growth. Mindful observation highlights these patterns, making them visible and subject to change. When we recognize avoidance strategies, we gain the choice to respond differently and more constructively. Mindfulness transforms habitual reactions into conscious decisions that promote healing. Processing pain through mindfulness also strengthens our capacity for emotional resilience. Observing emotions without resistance allows us to tolerate discomfort and learn from it. Each time we sit with pain, we practice endurance, patience, and self-compassion. Over time, this repeated engagement creates a mental framework that supports stability during future challenges. Awareness and mindfulness teach that suffering is not a signal of weakness, but an opportunity for growth and fortitude. Mindfulness fosters a deep connection with the body, which often carries unprocessed pain. Physical sensations are closely linked to emotional states, and observing them can provide valuable insight into unresolved trauma or stress. Awareness of bodily reactions to pain allows for early intervention, preventing escalation into chronic distress. Techniques such as deep breathing, gentle movement, or somatic practices integrate mind and body in the healing process. Feeling fully in the body enhances emotional processing and helps release stored tension. Being aware and present also improves decision-making during difficult times. Pain often clouds judgment and provokes impulsive choices aimed at immediate relief. Mindfulness encourages a pause, creating a space to assess situations clearly and act from a place of intention. Each conscious choice reinforces our ability to navigate life with wisdom rather than reaction. Awareness ensures that we respond to pain in ways that align with our long-term well-being instead of short-term avoidance. Awareness deepens self-compassion by helping us witness suffering without judgment. Mindfulness encourages understanding and kindness toward ourselves as we experience difficult emotions. Observing our pain with care allows us to soften harsh self-criticism and replace it with nurturing thoughts. This shift strengthens emotional health and creates a supportive internal environment for healing. Compassion cultivated through awareness transforms pain from a source of suffering into a teacher of empathy and understanding. Practicing mindfulness also enhances our relationships by allowing us to process pain without projecting it onto others. When emotions are unexamined, they can spill over into interactions, creating conflict or misunderstandings. Awareness helps us regulate reactions and communicate more effectively, fostering connection instead of isolation. Processing pain internally equips us to engage with others from a grounded and centered perspective. Mindfulness ensures that emotional growth benefits both personal well-being and relational harmony. Ultimately, awareness and mindfulness make pain a tool for growth rather than a burden. Observing emotions, understanding patterns, and integrating insights allow us to heal consciously. Each moment of mindful engagement strengthens resilience, self-compassion, and clarity. Avoiding or numbing pain may seem easier, but it prevents access to the lessons embedded within suffering. Through awareness, we transform emotional challenges into opportunities for insight, adaptation, and authentic living. Pain is not random. It carries meaning and purpose in the context of personal growth. Every difficult experience, whether it involves loss, rejection, or failure, has a lesson embedded within it. By examining these challenges, we gain insight into ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. Avoiding or numbing pain prevents us from accessing these lessons and slows down our evolution. Embracing discomfort allows us to extract wisdom and transform suffering into a tool for development. Difficult experiences highlight areas of our lives that require attention and change. Pain often reveals hidden fears, unresolved conflicts, or neglected needs that have been accumulating over time. When we confront these truths, we gain clarity about our priorities and values. Each instance of suffering becomes a mirror, reflecting the aspects of ourselves that we might otherwise ignore. Pain acts as a guide, steering us toward areas where growth is necessary and beneficial. Struggling through adversity strengthens character and builds resilience. Facing challenges develops perseverance, patience, and inner strength that cannot be cultivated through comfort alone. Pain stretches us beyond familiar limits, forcing us to adapt and find new solutions. Avoidance leaves us unprepared for future difficulties, while engagement equips us to face life with confidence. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to refine our emotional, mental, and spiritual capacities. Pain also fosters empathy and compassion for others. And experiencing suffering firsthand allows us to relate more deeply to the struggles of those around us. When we have endured hardship, we develop the ability to listen, understand, and support others with authenticity. Avoiding or numbing our own pain limits this capacity for connection. Personal growth is enhanced when our experiences of difficulty become a source of understanding and care for others. Every painful experience challenges us to reevaluate our choices and actions. It prompts introspection, asking questions about the paths we take, the habits we maintain, and the beliefs we hold. Through this reflection, we identify areas where change is needed and develop strategies to improve ourselves. Avoidance or distraction delays these insights and prolongs unnecessary suffering. By confronting discomfort, we cultivate clarity and wisdom that guide us toward better decisions. Pain teaches us humility and acceptance, reminding us that life is unpredictable and beyond complete control. Struggles expose limitations and vulnerabilities, showing that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to face it. Acceptance of these realities fosters patience and reduces frustration when challenges arise. By engaging with discomfort, we learn to navigate life with grace and balance. Pain becomes a teacher of perspective, helping us align expectations with reality. Through pain, we discover our inner resources and potential. Each time we endure and process suffering, we uncover resilience, courage, and creativity we may not have known existed. Avoiding or numbing challenges deprives us of the opportunity to realize our full capacity. Personal growth emerges when we harness the lessons and strengths revealed through adversity. Pain illuminates the parts of ourselves capable of transformation and achievement. Pain encourages innovation and problem solving by demanding adaptation. When life becomes difficult, familiar approaches may no longer work, and new strategies must be explored. This process develops flexibility and ingenuity, qualities that enrich our personal and professional lives. Numbing or ignoring challenges stunts this growth and leaves us reliant on outdated patterns. Engaging fully with pain sparks insight and creativity that drives progress and personal evolution. Experiencing pain deepens self-awareness and emotional intelligence. By sitting with discomfort, we become attuned to our thoughts, feelings, and reactions, understanding what triggers them and why. This awareness helps us regulate emotions more effectively and respond rather than react impulsively. Avoidance limits insight, keeping us disconnected from our inner world. Pain guides us toward introspection, helping us grow emotionally and make conscious choices. Pain ultimately acts as a catalyst for transformation. Each struggle offers lessons in resilience, empathy, humility, creativity, and self-awareness. Avoiding pain may offer short-term comfort, but it blocks the deeper evolution of character and understanding. By leaning into discomfort, we align ourselves with growth and purpose. Life's challenges, though difficult, carry the seeds of personal development that only reveal themselves when we embrace them fully. Healing is an active process that starts the moment we allow ourselves to feel our emotions fully. Avoidance may provide temporary relief, but it delays recovery and leaves underlying issues unresolved. When we confront our feelings honestly, we begin to understand their source and significance. Pain, fear, or grief are signals guiding us to areas in need of attention and care. Embracing emotions rather than numbing them creates a pathway toward true restoration and growth. Avoiding discomfort often leads to a buildup of unprocessed emotions that eventually surface in unexpected ways. Suppressed feelings can manifest as stress, anxiety, or even physical ailments over time. Numbing temporarily masks the pain but does not remove it. Feeling emotions consciously allows for their expression and integration into our awareness. Each act of engagement reduces the intensity of suffering and prevents long-term emotional congestion. Feeling pain also promotes self-awareness, which is essential for healing. When we acknowledge emotions, we gain insight into our needs, desires, and unresolved conflicts. Avoidance keeps us disconnected from our inner world, limiting our ability to make conscious, healthy choices. Understanding the origin and impact of emotions allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Healing grows when we observe, reflect, and accept what we are truly experiencing. Healing is strengthened through acceptance of vulnerability. Feeling emotions openly requires courage and honesty with ourselves. Vulnerability allows us to confront discomfort without judgment or self-criticism. Avoiding emotional pain reinforces fear and isolation, while embracing it cultivates strength and resilience. By leaning into vulnerability, we foster a safe internal environment where recovery and growth can occur. Expressing emotions in healthy ways accelerates the healing process. Talking with trusted individuals, journaling, or engaging in creative outlets helps release stored feelings constructively. Avoidance prevents expression, leaving emotions trapped and unresolved. By feeling and articulating what we experience, we create clarity and reduce emotional weight. Each honest expression brings relief and facilitates a deeper understanding of ourselves. Healing also requires patience, as emotions cannot be rushed or forced. Feeling discomfort fully often involves cycles of ups and downs, where progress may feel slow or uneven. Avoidance tempts us with the illusion of speed, but it prolongs suffering and blocks insight. Patience allows us to witness the natural flow of emotions and integrate them gradually. Over time, conscious engagement with feelings strengthens resilience and emotional stability. When we feel our pain, we also cultivate empathy for ourselves and others. Experiencing suffering firsthand deepens compassion and understanding for those facing similar challenges. Avoiding pain limits this perspective, leaving us disconnected from both our own and others' emotional realities. Healing through feeling fosters connection and relational depth. Emotional openness encourages both self-compassion and the ability to support others authentically. Feeling pain empowers us to reclaim control over our emotional life. Avoidance often leaves us reacting to emotions unconsciously, giving them power over our decisions and behaviors. By sitting with discomfort, we learn to observe feelings without being overwhelmed by them. This awareness allows us to respond thoughtfully and regain agency in our lives. Healing grows when we accept emotions as guides rather than threats, enabling conscious navigation of life's challenges. Facing pain enhances resilience, teaching that suffering is not permanent or unmanageable. Each time we experience and process difficult emotions, we expand our capacity to endure future challenges. Avoidance may provide temporary safety, but it weakens our ability to adapt when life inevitably brings hardship. Feeling our emotions builds confidence in our ability to survive and thrive despite difficulties. Resilience grows from the practice of confronting pain rather than running from it. Healing through feeling is a transformative process that connects mind, body, and spirit. Embracing emotions allows integration of experiences, turning suffering into insight and growth. Avoiding pain may create temporary comfort, but it inhibits true restoration and self-understanding. Fully experiencing our emotions strengthens self-awareness, compassion, and adaptability. Each conscious engagement with feelings moves us closer to wholeness and authentic living.